Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday to you all. Glad to have you with us. I hear Christians talking a lot, and not just Christians, but lots of people talking about how they're already sick and tired of the political dialogue and wish we could just kind of ignore it, get away from it. Can this be done already? And I understand the sentiment. It's kind of crazy if you're paying attention at all. However, it's important and we have to think through this carefully. And I think we need to be persuasive to others about the importance of this election this November. And I know every cycle, everybody says this is the most important election of our lifetime and so on. And I'm not going to say that. I don't know if it is or not. But if you've studied history, did any of you read any of the Naked Communist that I referred to you last week? If you're aware of what's going on, we've given up a lot of ground and we must not give up more. So anyway, we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about some pretty cool things as far as technology goes. And it fits together with the larger theme here. But so think about all of the technological advances that we are experiencing more and more all the time. The Lord is prospering us here in the West, here in the U.S. especially, abundantly. And I know I remind you of this every so often, but we forget it. We assume and presume upon it. We have temperature controls. And just think about that. You can be comfortable pretty much all the time, right? In your car, in your home, in your workplace. You can bring the temperature down if it's too hot. You can bring it up if it's too low, because we have figured out how to use fossil fuels, convert that to energy, and so on. I could go on and on and on, but that is the Lord blessing and prospering us. So a very simple example of that I just discovered recently. Can any of you tell what this is? Anybody have one of these? So in our house, we've been in this house since 2012, and in the winter time, my bedroom is the coldest room in the house, and it's the hottest room in the house in the summertime. Now, we have just a month or so ago installed a heat pump, which serves as a furnace and an air conditioner, because of our home fellowship, and it just gets too hot in here with a house full of people in the summer. So we've never had air conditioning, but we got it a few weeks ago. Man, was that expensive? Anyway, which made the main level extremely comfortable. The basement is just very, very cool, very cold. But in our room, where my wife and our bedroom, it's hot. Well, that device that I just put up there, it's called a register vent, and you can take out your vent, replace it with this one. It plugs in, and you can set the controls, and it will pull air up through the vents into the room. It's got dual fans on it. So apparently, because when we got the heat pump installed, I asked the installer, can we get it a big enough one that it'll push air into our bedroom up there? And he said that's not the problem. It's apparently the angles in the vent work, all the 90-degree angles significantly reduce the amount of air that gets around it. I don't know all the physics of it. Some of you probably know better than I do. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter how big the fan is pushing the air, it's still not going to get into our bedroom the way we'd like it. But these fans pull the air up, and it has made a significant difference already. And I look forward to seeing how that plays out in the wintertime. So regardless of whether or not this becomes the solution we were hoping for, I think it's pretty amazing that someone realized Here is a problem, and we can solve the problem by creating this fan that fits in your vent to pull the air up. Another solution is we have a little, space heater kind of thing. It's styled after the old radiators, but it's not water, it's electric, but it sends out warm air in the wintertime, similar to a radiator. We have a variety of solutions to the problem. And there are folks working on desalination methods where we can take salt water and other non-drinkable water and convert it to drinkable water. And I've told you before, nuclear energy is the path forward to great worldwide prosperity. Look what the Lord is doing in our midst, providing so much. And people are constantly solving problems. And it's wonderful. It's a great time to be alive. There's another different technology that has captured my attention. So some of you saw the post on Twitter that I put out the other day, and here's the image, and I put a little caption, something like, you ruined it. I'm starting over. So this is an image that I created with Grok. Now, if you're not on X, that may mean nothing to you. So X, formerly Twitter, they just launched their AI 2.0, and Musk has called the AI Grok. And 2.0, it's in beta form, allows you to simply type in a prompt, and it will create an image for you in seconds. So when it came out the other night, I was messing around, and I don't know why I chose this as my first one. Maybe it's because politics are on my mind. But I said, create an image of George Washington with a torch in his hand riding to set the Capitol on fire with ominous thunderstorms overhead. I think that was the prompt. And in seconds, it created this image. Now, I'm not a graphics artist in any sense. All of my art went to music. I can't draw stick figures. I'm just not talented when it comes to paint and that kind of thing. But this AI technology is going to allow me to create art. Now I don't mean to suggest that me speaking that in is like as good as painting something. That it's not that kind of artistry. That's I wouldn't want to take away credit from true artists. But in order to create images for a variety of things, I can do it just by telling AI what I want. That's just that's just a fun feature when you look at what AI is going to allow us to do. The kinds of things I've already learned by interacting with ChatGPT and now with Grok. It's amazing. With ChatGPT, I have conversations with it, and it helps me learn things, and it dialogues, and it's that's why I call it artificial intelligence. It sounds like I'm talking to someone who's intelligent. I had a spreadsheet that I was working on for something, and I couldn't get the right formula, and all I had to do is ask ChatGPT, and it gave me the right formula that I was looking for. I'm telling you, AI is going to change so many things. Education, as we've talked about, it's going to be a good tool so long as we get control of it. So anyway, those are just a couple of examples of the prosperity the Lord has poured out on us and is. My concern is in the near term, are we going to throw this away here in America? And a vote for Kamala Harris and a vote not for Donald Trump is a vote to throw that away. Now, I know there are people, I don't know how many are with us here that are who would say, I can't vote for Harris, but I can't vote for Trump either. I understand the sentiment. I personally think it's an unwise sentiment, and I think it's a myopic view. Because if you don't vote for Trump, you are taking away a vote that would allow Kamala Harris to be defeated. And I know we have our reasons, and I at the end of the day, I'm not your conscience. So don't, you have to go before God and vote your conscience. But I would like to at least inform your conscience, give you something to wrestle with in there. That if your principle, for whatever reason, says I can't vote for him, and it's the abortion issue which we've talked about, or whatever, just realize that is a vote that reduces the likelihood that he wins and increases the likelihood that she wins. And she is the next phase of communism trying to destroy the church, Christianity, and Western civilization. And they've been at it for decades and decades and decades, and they have subtly made huge progress in ways that even conservatives forget, I think. For example, in one of Trump's statements, was it just yesterday or the day before, he talked about the new cities. Did you see any of that? He talked about building new cities sort of from the ground up that would be affordable and so on. And as he was making his point, he made a comment, which I think I got this right. I forgot to check myself, so you can fact check me here if I'm wrong. But I think he said 30% of the land mass of America is owned by the government. 30, it might even be 33%, but I think he said 30% of the land mass of the U.S. is owned by the government. Now, just think that through for a minute. A true conservative, someone who really cares about the Constitution, would be appalled at that number. Now, I'm not throwing stones at Trump in the sense that what it illustrates is, here's a guy who is fighting for many freedoms, freedom of speech, for instance, and lower taxation and all of that. But if he had a wider view of what's going on, he wouldn't be trying to build cities with government land. He would be doing everything he can to reduce property owned by the government, because that is a violation of the principles of the Constitution. In fact, if you know what the founding fathers were seeking to do and the government they were trying to create, property owned by the government to be a third of what we have, it would be George Washington would go right into to DC with the torch and burn it down. It violates the mindset of the original framers of the Constitution. And yet, and this is the point I'm getting at, it is just accepted even in government circles. I'm sorry, in conservative circles, it is simply accepted that the government owns all this property and now we need to use it well. No, where we need to get to is the government gives away or sells off, gets rid of ownership. The government is not an entity that can own property, but we've allowed that to happen. Communism, government, it's a subtle, long run approach to communism takeover, is having the government slowly, year after year after year after year, decade after decade, buying up more of the property. And they're going to keep doing it. Even conservatives will do it because they've lost sight of what's happening here. Either that or they're not true conservatives, I guess. Or think about taxes. When our government is able to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on things like Ukraine and weapons for Israel and all that, and the deficit currently and the interest that we're paying and on and on and on. Well, actually, we're not paying it. We're just accumulating it. How rich are we as a nation that our government can continue to take hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars from its citizens and use it for all kinds of things, and we simply accept that the government is going to provide for all of these things? They're going to take our money and then they're going to distribute it. That's what communism does. It's all part of the plan to have the government control everything. That's what communism is all about. Marxism, socialism, those are different words, and they're not completely interchangeable, but for this conversation they are. They're all getting at the same thing. And years ago, the income tax, almost 100 years ago, the income tax was instituted, and it was supposed to be temporary. And of course it's not. It's only grown and grown and grown. And then they were brilliant strategically when they said, okay, we're going to take money out of your paycheck so that you don't even see it, right? The withdrawals, when you get a new job and you fill out a W-4, you're telling them how much you want them to take out before you ever see the money. And what this does is it creates for us a disconnect with the taxes. So basically, if you're getting a job and you're negotiating salary, and they say, here's the gross, but you figure out what your take home is, because that's all you're going to have to use. So in our minds, we're no longer really considering the tax question. We sort of don't care about that anymore, because it's taken out before we get the money anyway. All we're concerned about is, what is my take home? Great, the government can have theirs, whatever. The company's going to pay part of that. We're going to pay part of it. But at the end of the day, what's my take home? Because that's what I can spend on stuff. It's a brilliant move by the government years ago. Now what you need to do is you need to start a business and work for yourself. As a sole proprietor, you are responsible for paying out of your pocket all the taxes. And the government wants their cut before April, so you have to pay tax estimates quarterly. So you have a business, and I'll use round numbers here. Let's say your business is going to make $100,000 this year. If you make that $100,000, or you're working toward that, but you have to take out of your checking account a portion every quarter and send that to the government, and you're paying both halves of FICA, by the way, if you know what that's all about, suddenly it's infuriating. Wait, I'm working hard, I'm building this business, I'm earning this money, and I have to send a significant check to the government every quarter? It just hits you differently. Well, we're all doing that. It's just when it's taken out, it removes it from the equation. But when you have to pay it quarterly, it changes things. Well, subtly, the taxes on everything have grown, right? Income tax. I continue to see memes and things going around about property tax. Think about property tax. If you pay off your house, you still pay property tax on it. How do we get to a point where we just accept the fact that the government's going to tax the property that we have already paid off? We own it. And then they can come take it away from you if you don't pay property taxes. So do you really own it? And tax on all the sales, tax on everything. The old song, The Beatles, The Tax Man and others. It's true. And we just allow this to happen, because every time the government wants to raise taxes or increase taxes or the number of things that we are taxed on, we just say yes. I mean, I have a rule when it comes to our state. When things are on the ballot and they want a tax increase, I automatically vote no. Some of the things are good things, and I wish I would be okay with our state or local government spending tax money on those things. The problem is the way they spend everything else. I don't want to give them more of my money. I would much rather them take it from this pot and put it in that pot and do that thing that this proposal wants to do. Plus, we just don't trust them. I don't trust them to do what they say they're going to do. We have this law here in Colorado that when there's a surplus of certain taxes, they have to give it back to us. And our current governor has found a way, and he's tried many times to overturn. I think, if anybody's a Colorado resident here, you can verify this too. I think it is in the Colorado Constitution now. I think it was an amendment, but they still are trying to find ways around it to keep that extra money, so to speak. That's just what it does. And it's this communist ideology. It's not like there is one entity. Think about this, the government taking more of our money. Well, who is the government? It's not a particular person or even a group of people. It's the ideology. It's the mindset, because it's the philosophy that has worked its way in. So that leads me to the last thing here. I see some comments. Let me look at some of these comments first. Chris says, recreate the image with 4 fingers and a thumb on each. Yeah, right. David says, I would love to know the exact phrase you used to create that drawing to see what I would get using it. I think it's exactly what I said. So try it. Jim says, speaking as a person who didn't vote for Trump in 2020, I feel need to vote for him to save our country. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not so much about pro-Trump. It's we have to keep Harris out of the White House. That's why I think and I have friends who are here that they just can't vote for Trump out of principle, and I get it, but I think they will regret it if she wins. I think they will look back and say, I thought I had the principle right, but now I realize the folly in that decision. If you're in that camp, think hard about this. Chris says it's about 28% for federal, including states. It's about 30 to 35%. Isn't that crazy? Governments own 30 to 35%. Sunday Life. Verifying that. Jim says if you don't pay your rent, what do they do? If you don't pay your taxes, what will they do? Yep. And then the whole squatters thing that's going on. That's, again, all a communist thing. Private property has to be eliminated. That's how Marxism works. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is from the Naked Communist that I mentioned to you, as their goals decades and decades ago included get control of the schools, use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda, soften the curriculum, get control of teachers' associations or teachers' unions, and put the party line in textbooks. This is why we have gotten to the place where people are not riled up at our taxation and government owning property and so on, is because our schools have been teaching subtle communism for decades. And add to that the media and the arts and things where the government is to take care of us. Well, how is the government going to take care of us? They need money. Where are they going to get that money? From everybody. We've been conditioned. Everyone who went to government schools has been conditioned to see the government as good and our savior and our provider, and it's efficient. And of course, why would we not want them to do it? And either that or just distract us so we don't pay attention. It's intentional. It's built into the school system because the government controls the schools. We shouldn't call them public schools, call them government schools, because that's what they are. That's why they were started. Look at the origination of quote unquote public schools in the US. It was expressly for the purpose of the government controlling the education. And we can't ignore this. This has already been tried in communist countries before, and it led to disaster. So Harris yesterday, if I saw this correctly, proposed a price control of rent. Is that right? It will take you about 5 minutes on Grok or maybe ChatGPT. I don't know. It's kind of biased against conservatism, but look into wherever the government has used price control. The register events, someone that I showed you at the beginning, someone creating this technology where we can solve problems, that all goes away if the government sets price controls on things. And notice her solutions for everything is taking money from all of our citizens and the government solving problems. The more money and control we give to the government, the fewer technological advances and problem solving there's going to be. And we're all going to get it poor. But just pay attention to her solutions. All of her solutions. Our government will take care of you. Government will take money from everybody and distribute it in all these ways, and it sounds great. And it will not be great. It will be horrendous. And we need to help our first. So I'm guessing by my audience here, I'm guessing most of you already get this. Have these conversations with your friends and certainly your family, anybody who can vote, if they don't see it. And don't follow the party line. Don't assume your more liberal friends are the enemy. Most of them don't have a clue. They have been conditioned. They've been taught. It sounds great. I mean, in a sinless world, socialism, sure. I mean, if in the same way that a dictator, right? If you have a truly benevolent dictator, that's the most efficient way. I mean, if Jesus showed up and was just, ruling our land, of course it would be wonderful. Well, to pool all of our resources together for the good of everyone, if everyone is selfless, well, it's unimaginable prosperity and joy. But that's not the reality. Our governments are not led by selfless people. They're very selfish, grabbing power and money and setting themselves up for when they get out of office and so on. And all the lobbying and all the, the book signings and the tours where they go and they get paid $100,000 an hour to speak and so on. Talk to your friends about these things, but don't assume they're the enemy. They don't know any better, most of them. Now, there are some, but most of them, they've been raised in a government school. If they listen to just one side of the media, in fact, there's really only one side except for X. One of the reasons I support X, I pay for the premium, and that's why I have access to Grok, is because I'm thankful for Elon Musk. I think he may single-handedly save free speech in the U.S., which may save us from the descent into communism. We'll see. Anyway, talk about this, but do so winsomely and just talk factually. Because if you get caught up in a fight like we've been talking about in Timothy over doctrines and things, you're not going to win anybody over. But have some casual conversations. Dale says, I've never had a huge problem with property tax in particular. Taxes need to come from somewhere, and property tax theoretically correlates revenues with benefits. Yeah, if I agree, taxes need to come from somewhere. And if that were the only tax, sure. Or sales tax, I can see the argument for that, where you you have the money to spend on this and government takes that. It's just they tax everything and double tax it. Did you see most recently the discussion that has come up again about, and this, Dale, I'm sure this hits home with you, unrealized gains. So you got money in the stock market and you don't make or lose money until you sell. But if you're showing a gain, a profit, there's talk about taxing that. So your stock goes up 20%. They want to tax that. Well, if you don't sell it at that gain and it drops 40%, now you're negative 20%. Are they going to give you money back? Of course not. They're just always after more money, more power. But they sell it as though they're going to take care of us. No. Our nation will thrive if the government doesn't take care of us, but protects us from crimes and allows the free market and free people to innovate like we've been doing with the things I was saying earlier. We will thrive and the poor will be taken care of, and that's how it's supposed to work. So anyway, I'll leave it there, but I do encourage you, think through these things, keep your eyes wide open to the subtle expansion of communistic ideas. And if you haven't studied this, you need to. And then you need to have conversations with people graciously, kindly, and for their good, not me against you mindset. All right. Have a great weekend, and we will see you all on Monday to get back to 2 Timothy. Grace and peace to you.